Hey there, I'm Lee Ullman here with some big news from the National Young Farmers Coalition. We're partnering with Heritage Radio Network on a special season of The Farm Report. It's all about what's happening with the Farm Bill and how it impacts farmers and eaters.
I am growing diversified vegetables on land that's been in our family for 150 years.
And so with the pandemic, gentrification, property values going up, we had to sell the land and we lost it.
Join us as we uncover the untold stories behind this massive piece of legislation that shapes how we grow our food, what we eat, and so much more.
The problems we have had, those are things that come from earlier Farm Bill and USDA policy, right? Like Earl Butts, get big or get out.
You know, it's my responsibility to know not only what I'm eating, but then like how that all came to be. And realize like, wow, like this piece of legislation, all this money, like it's technically something that I support as a taxpayer.
While Congress debates the next Farm Bill, this is not just an invitation to listen. It's a call to action. Be part of the conversation. Subscribe to the Farm Report on Heritage Radio Network, wherever you listen to podcasts.
Today's program has been brought to you by S. Wallace Edwards & Sons, third-generation cure masters producing the country's best dry-cured and aged hams, bacon, and sausage. For more information, visit surreyfarms.com. You're listening to Heritage Radio Network, broadcasting live from Bushwick, Brooklyn. If you like this program, visit heritageradionetwork.org for thousands more.
Well, hello and welcome to Chef's Story. I'm Dorothy Cann Hamilton from the International Culinary Center in Manhattan, but we're sitting in Bushwick, Brooklyn at Roberta's and on a hot summer day. And today, my guest is a perfect chef for a hot summer day, Laurent Tourondel, who is famous for BLT steak, and BLTs in the summer I think are just perfect, especially for the teas, but you took it because of your name. But let me tell you a little bit about Laurent if you don't know who he is before we get to talking to him. But Laurent was the 1998 Food and Wine Best New Chef. He has been chosen by Bon Appetit magazine in October 2007 as the Restaurateur of the Year, and he's been nominated for many James Beard Awards and has 3 cookbooks after listening to him. And if you're salivating and can't get to one of his restaurants, he has Go Fish that he did in 2004, which is Fresh Ideas for American Seafood. His Bistro Laurent Tourondel, New American Bistro Cooking, and Fresh from the Market, Seasonal Cooking with Laurent Tourondel. Welcome, Laurent.
Hi, Dorothy.
How are you?
Good.
How are you?
Thanks for having me.
Wait till you hear what this man has done. I can't keep up with him. He's presently the executive chef at Brasserie Ruhlman in Rockefeller Center. So any of you visiting New York and you find yourself there either at Christmas near the tree or sweltering in the summer, it is a perfect place to sit outside. And he has many interests in many restaurants, mainly his LTBs, LT Burger, LT Steak, all over the world, from Hong Kong to Panama City to Sag Harbor and Miami. So we're going to get into that in a little bit. But first, Laurent, I just want to ask you, you're French, right?
Yes. Cannot get rid of my accent.
Oh, I love your accent. I don't want you to get rid of it. So tell me, what part of France did you grow up in?
I grew up in the center of France, in
Le Massif Central.
Le Massif Central, in l'Auvergne.
L'Auvergne. Mm-hmm. Oh, so that's there's a lot of. Didn't Chez l'ami Louis? Didn't he come from the Auvergne in Paris? He
Could
did
be.
Fantastic foie gras. That's what
Yes.
I remember.
Best block. Yeah.
The best block of foie gras.
Yeah,
It comes from that. So, did you always want to be a chef?
Somehow, yes. My whole family, my great-grandfather was a chef. He had his own bistro, and although my parents were never in the food industry, but I think it's something I always had passion with, and it was important for me, to understand my whole family, and we were cooking, dinner every Sunday, and it was very almost picture perfect. The garden, we only eat seasonal product. So I had a grandmother and a great grandmother who were amazing cook. So.
Did you cook when you were young? Or did you just let your mother and grandma? Always?
Always, yeah.
So did you learn from your grandmothers? Your mother?
Most of it, yeah.
Most of it?
Yeah, the passion of cooking was really because of both my great-grandmother and my grandmother.
So I understand when you went to school, you weren't a great student.
Mm-hmm.
That's
not that great. Not that great.
But was the passion always there for cooking, and you didn't care about school, or did you ever think of doing anything else other than cooking?
I wanted to be an architect, but my grades were not good enough to go to the school. So there was this little cooking school in the town where I grew up, and I went to the cooking school.
And so tell me, what is a French cooking school like? How do you learn? How long do you learn for? How do you compare it to maybe what American cooking schools are like?
I mean, it was also a long time ago, so I'm pretty sure the education changed. It was very basic. I mean, it was a great school. I went over there for 4 years. So it was an intense cooking school.
So 4 years, did you have summer vacations? Was it like a regular school year that you had vacation time as well?
Yes.
Okay. And did you study other subjects other than cooking?
Yes, no, definitely. We have general
studies.
Studies, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But at least 2 days a week full on cooking.
Mm-hmm.
So, it was good because they were teaching us really about regional product and farm, and it was not only just about cooking
and technique.
Yeah, and technique, of course.
Of course, the technique.
French technique only.
The famous, actually, French technique is classic, isn't it? I mean, that's what everybody uses in the kitchen. If you're German or Italian, I mean, it's a codification of technique that the French did.
I guess he applied to a lot of, food from different countries, but it's not necessarily true. I mean, Japanese doesn't really use.
No, that's true.
Chinese either, and so.
Western cuisine.
Yeah.
I liken it to ballet. If I say what are the greatest ballet companies in the world, you don't think French. But the French codified ballet, all the terminology, the moves, they gave the basic foundation. And I think that's what the French are really renowned for in so many ways, and why they're great in scientific method and philosophy is because they know how to structure and build on foundations. And that's why I think I remember having your food the first time when you came to New York, and you were the chef at Cello. And your technique, and it was so brilliant with the flavors and such mastery.
Thank you.
Tell me...
That was my fine dining years.
Those were... and were they fine? You took New York by storm. I just remember eating some of the most delicious food I ever ate. So tell me... How, when you get out of school, what is the path to becoming a chef of your caliber in France? Where were all the places that you had to work, and what did you take away from those places?
Well, getting out of school is not easy. We all want to go, work in a 3-Michelin star. I believe this is the dream for everyone when you come out of school. The matter of fact is you do not get into a 3-Michelin star unless you went to a 3-Michelin star somewhere. So you have to start somewhere. So you got to fight, and you got to route yourself to a different route than going to the 3-Michelin star, because it's almost impossible. So I went to work in England.
Oh.
And I work in a very serious establishment in a gentleman club with we were about a brigade of 25, and I step up in the hierarchy of the kitchen. That was my first real job in a real kitchen. And the food was French.
Why England? I mean, here you're a Frenchman. I don't think England stands out as the gastronomic capital for a lot of French people. What appealed to you about England?
It's funny because I always fight this reason. I think British have great food, and I think most of the time are not been done or were not done properly. Mm-hmm. But I think the British has amazing food. Mm-hmm. I still do a lot of puddings in my restaurant. I still do a lot of pies. Mm-hmm. So there is good thing about English cooking.
I remember BLT. You serve the Yorkshire pudding bread.
The popover.
The popover, yes. That.
Which is the version of the
yes,
pudding.
Right. Yeah. Okay, so that, yes, it all strikes home there. So how did you transfer? Because then you did start working at 3-star Michelin restaurants.
I travel a lot. I was fascinated by the travel, and I've always been fascinated. I'm still fascinated about not only learning about French cooking, but I was also fascinated about what was Asian cuisine and American cuisine, and I was done when I was done with England. Before going to the 3 Michelin star, I had to see what was America about, and I came to this country for a year, and I traveled all around, studying barbecue and north of United States food, Maine, from Maine. Went to California also a little bit. So I traveled a little bit around, and I was very interested about this, first of all, the culture and, the food part of it.
That's amazing. So you leave France, you go to London, and then you go to America.
Yeah.
And, Americans can't wait to go to Italy and France, thinking that's the beacon of Western food. So I don't know too many French chefs that have done your journey. And so after America, how long did you stay here, and did you work while you were here?
I worked here on the Upper East Side of Manhattan, on the Upper West Side of Manhattan, in a very good restaurant. And then after that, I realized the base of what I was doing was not strong enough. So it was time for me. I was probably 20, 21 years old.
Okay, let's stop there. The base of what you were doing, you mean your technique or your knowledge of product? What do you mean by the base?
Everything. I don't think I knew enough to just not spend enough time in France. I had to go back to France and learn. I had to find a way. I couldn't get in those 3 Michelin stars, so I needed to find a way. I finally realized the guy who I was working for in New York was like this master chef who works, at Verger and Trois Gros and La Chapelle and, Michel Guérard. No, a French person, a French chef named Bruno Tison, who was the chef at the Plaza also. And he convinced me. He says, the only way you're going to make it is to go back to France and go work in those places. And I thought about it. I believed him and packed my suitcase and went back to France. And I'll never forget, I landed in France, in Paris, and then I had no job, nothing. I was with my suitcase, and I had one day to find a job because I couldn't afford the hotel in Paris, and I didn't know anyone. So went back to France and then knock on doors. Went and knock on doors. So my first was Alain Saint-Dérens and Lucas Carton, yeah. And then after that, we had this great restaurant who just opened at Le Doyen, was Jacques Maximin. So I went to work for Jacques. He gave me a job right away. He says, your starting date will be so it was a week from now. And I had to make it happen. So that was my first big job in France.
Okay, so help us Americans understand how many years had you been out of school before you went back to France to get this new base?
6 years.
6 years, okay. Because a lot of young American cooks, they get out of school and they feel, in a year or two, I should have my own restaurant doing my own thing. And here you are, you went to a school that was about 4 years 4 years long, and then you were cooking in good restaurants under good chefs, and you feel after 6 years of cooking at good restaurants under good chefs that you had to go back and get your base.
Well, I think
that's such an important concept to understand.
Well, no, it's easy to understand. I had a job for 6 years, and out of a job, I developed a passion, and I had to go and follow my passion. Before that, it was just a job. It was fun. It was going from a country to another country and a restaurant from another restaurant. And after that, I say I love what I do. I think I understand it better, but now I have to get to the next step. So my next step was going back to France and reaching those guys, the big restaurant.
So tell us what you learned. Take one thing that you learned in the 3-star that was giving you that base you went back for, that nuance.
I think number one was a challenge, because we all, like young kids in those big kitchen, challenging each other, and you learn. I draw where I wanted to go. I couldn't go to a much more fancy restaurant. I couldn't go to a Pierre Canier. I couldn't go to a Michel Bras. But I wanted to learn the basis. I wanted to understand what my country was about food. So I went to learn the classic. I went to the Trois Gros family after that. But I think I took, it was a different experience in each of those restaurants. For example, Jacques Maximin was the creativity and being spontaneous. It was no plan. We were cooking, everything was à la minute.
Oh my gosh.
Even the bisque of crab was à la minute, it was some of the things we'll start at every station in the kitchen, and it will give us a list of 10 special per station. And he was the master. He was the only one who knew what's going on in those plates. We didn't know. So it was somehow a good school for me of creativity. I think he was famous for that, and I think he's still famous for being a very creative person. And so that's what I took from this experience in Paris.
And then what did you learn at Trois Gros?
Trois Gros was a different approach of maybe more the farm to table. We were learning the respect of the product. We had more relation with farmers and little producer, in terms of cheese, winemaker, all the hunter, who used to bring all the games. So it was really learning about the product and the technique of what they develop,
And then Alain Senderin in Paris is different from the farm to table. What did you learn there?
Actually, I never worked over there. I was mentioning, no, it was one of the places where
that you tried.
I was trying to go, and it was not. They didn't have a space for me at the time, so I went to work with Jacques Maximin.
Okay. All right. Well, we need to take a little break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about your journey and how you've built your empire. We'll be right back.
Today's program has been brought to you by S. Wallace Edwards & Sons. Edwards Suriano hams are aged to perfection for no less than 400 days and hickory smoked to achieve a deep mahogany color. The Edwards name is well known for its world-class aged and cured meats. Their exclusive curing and aging recipe produces a unique flavor profile that enhances the quality characteristics of Berkshire pork. Optimum amounts of pure white fat marbling contribute to a flavor that's a delicate, perfect balance between sweet and salty. For more information, visit www.surreyfarms.com.
Welcome back. You're listening to Chef's Story, and I'm Dorothy Cann Hamilton. And today, my guest is Laurent Tourondel from Brasserie Ruhlmann and BLT restaurants. We've just heard his journey of the making of a chef, actually. And before we leave that, I understand you spent time in Moscow.
Yes.
These are not gastronomic hotspots. London, America, and Moscow. In the years that you, what year did you go to America? Back then,
The first time I would
in the 80s.
Yeah, in the 80s. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not when we were known for our food in London either. So what drew
Not
you to?
maybe not known for the food, but it was an amazing food. I mean, I had some amazing experience in the United States, down the south eating barbecue.
Yes, yes. And the regional cuisines and the products.
Yeah,
are wonderful.
it's amazing.
Yeah, but what drew you to Moscow?
I was working for a French company in Paris doing some, extra job on the weekend, and they had this big restaurant in Moscow, and they asked me if I was interested. So, I got a visa. They got me a visa, and I went to work in Moscow. It was an interesting experience.
Was this before Gorbachev? Was it still communist?
It was during Gorbachev, yeah.
It was during Gorbachev. So, how much wealth was in Moscow then?
A lot.
And the restaurant, what was it like, and how much did it charge, and what kinds of food were you cooking?
I was cooking French food, and it was kind of like a French cabaret, and it was fine dining, fine dining. So we used to bring. So the combination of the food was local produce and also
French.
French product. We used to fly like once a week. Once a week.
Anything you've brought back from that experience that stays with you to today that you learned?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of Russian recipe. I still do some of them. Blini, aladi, pierogi. I mean, a lot of
Caviar.
An easy one.
An easy one. It's my favorite when I come to your restaurant. So now, when did you know you were ready to become a chef, the head of your own kitchen?
I don't think you're ever ready. I think you just have to jump into it,
And so what was that first experience like for you?
Rough.
Where was it? What kind of restaurant? What country?
My first chef job was for the Trois Gros family when we opened a restaurant here in New York.
On 29th? Was that on 29th Street?
Was on 22nd Street.
22nd off of Park?
Park in Lexington.
Ah.
Yeah, so that was the first experience, and then it was a good experience. It was a very busy restaurant.
So what's it like to be the chef and not the sous chef?
More responsibility. I don't know if I ever looked at it this way. I saw the way I looked at it was really a collaboration with everybody. So overrated.
Sounds like you're a good team manager.
I try.
Do you look at the kitchen as a team?
Yeah. Definitely a hierarchy in the team.
Yes. All right. So let's let everybody know exactly how big your restaurant empire is today. How many restaurants do you have as you're the executive chef of Brasserie Ruhlmann in Rockefeller Center, right? And it's an 800 cover.
Sometimes we'll do 800 cover a day, yeah.
Restaurants a day.
Yeah.
But now you have the whole BLT empire. How many restaurants in how many countries?
Well, I am in the back of the house on a couple of BLTs, like on 8 BLTs, from Hong Kong to Puerto Rico to Atlanta, Charlotte, Scottsdale, Vegas. So those restaurants, I control the back of the house as a consultant. I have my own restaurant too, which is Brasserie Ruhlmann, LT Burger in Bray and Park, LT Burger in Sag Harbor, and the New Arlington Club on the Upper East Side, new steakhouse.
So do you feel more a manager than a chef? or a consultant than a chef?
No. No, because either you are a consultant or a chef, I think your role is the same. You should be responsible for the people who you hire. You should be responsible for the food, the quality of the food, the menu. I don't think I have a difference in my head about it.
So when you do a deal for a new restaurant,
Mhm.
what is the person on the other side of the table asking you for? Are they asking you for your food sense, your menu, your taste? Are they asking for your management style? Are they asking for your popularity that you pack these restaurants in? What is it that you have to deliver?
They want everything. I don't know. It's always different. Sometimes it's a consulting job where I don't have to involve my name inside. Sometimes it's back of the house management with my name on. Sometimes it's the whole restaurant. Sometimes I'm an investor. Sometimes I'm just an executive chef. So it depends. Every deal is different.
So tell me what your day is like. You get up. What time? Where do you go when you have that many? Do you get on a plane and go to Puerto Rico?
It's a schedule.
The winter,
it's a schedule.
It's a schedule.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have a secretary that keeps your schedule?
Yeah, I have an assistant who's great. She's takes care of all my schedule and way more, by the way. But she organized my life basically. I wake up early in the morning. Around 6:30, 6:15, and my day goes by emails for a couple of hours, and then after that, I go to restaurants.
And when you go to the restaurant, what happens? What time do you go there? Do you go before service to see what they're doing? Do you go during service and eat?
I go usually before every service, and I stay during service.
Do you find the cooks in the kitchen want to touch you, want to learn from you, want to get because they're cooking your food. So how do you impart your passion?
I think it's also my way of showing them, what exactly I want. And I'm fortunate. I have some great chef who work for me. I have a great corporate chef, and then every chef in every restaurant, I think they're pretty talented. So,
do you bring them through your system? The chefs at new restaurants, have they always worked for you for a few years so they know your food? Or sometimes do you take a chef, let's say you're in Panama City, do you have to bring in a chef there, or do you take a chef from there and train them?
It's always different. It depends who I could find on the local basis and see if the person is strong enough, and then we put him up to speed, or her, sorry. Every situation is different.
So some you have ownership in, some restaurants you're merely a management consultant, and some you kind of license and run the kitchen?
Some I license, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, some I own.
So how does a chef bridge the gap? Here's the guy who didn't like school, self-proclaimed, not a good student, and you've got this management empire that I think Harvard could do a case study on. And how did you learn to do this? They didn't teach you that base. They didn't teach that base in cooking school.
No. But I think also being diversified in what I do, it's also learning also the business aspect of it, and I think this is also good as a chef to learn that. I mean, and I'm not saying I look at it in another way now than it was 15 years ago. Of course, it's not only about cooking. It's a business.
So you learned that on the job, sort of. You learned as you went along the business.
Yes.
Did you have any mentors in business to help you?
Every one of my financial partner, were a mentor for me. So I think you learn how to structure deals. And I have a good advisor now still, on certain deal, and
that's what you need. You need a good lawyer, good
Yeah, you need a good
good
lawyer.
accountant.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And surround yourself with great people.
Yeah.
So when you were in cooking school, could you ever imagine yourself being a chef like you are today with all of these restaurants? Was this something that was even someone could dream about back? Because we were talking before about how the profession has changed.
Yeah, I don't think I didn't even know if I wanted to be a chef when I was at the cooking school, So
That's not where your passion hit.
no, it was. I mean, it became my passion. But at school, I don't know. I mean, I went to school when I was 12 years old.
Yeah.
So it's very difficult to ask a kid of 12 years old what he wants to do when he's 25.
That's true.
So it's a step of your life you are in, and either you're gonna make it happen and it's gonna develop, either you're gonna move it and do something else.
So how do you control that many places? How do you control your name? How do you control the product? How do you control the menu?
Well, you have to trust people a lot. You have to trust people a lot. You have to hire the right person, and it's not easy.
No.
It's not easy every day. One day the food in one place is not. Someone complains, so we have to fix it. One day the food cost is too high. One day the labor cost is too high. There's always something going on. Always.
So
But
it's
this is what it is. It's management.
management,
Yeah.
troubleshooting.
Mhm.
And how many people do you have on your team to help you do this?
I have a couple of people who work for me, but they are on and off with me when I open restaurant. So I create a team usually. It depends where it is, what it is.
So do you have a dream of, with all of this, I just see you sitting on this pile of restaurants in different ways. Do you have a dream of where you want to be in 5 years?
I don't know what's the next step. I'm not too sure. I think the next step may be hotel. It's something I always wanted to do. Maybe try
A
to
hotel
do.
running the hotel, or food and beverage in the hotel, or, boutique hotel?
Well, I think starting by maybe doing the food and beverage of the hotel, and who knows, maybe managing an hotel one day.
The sky's the limit.
Yeah, something different.
Yeah. Okay, well, we're going to take another break, and we'll be right back.
Thanks.
Well, welcome back. You're listening to Chef's Story, and I'm Dorothy Cann Hamilton. And today my guest is Laurent Tourondel, and we're sitting in beautiful Roberta's restaurant in Bushwick, Brooklyn. And we were just talking to Laurent about his multitude of restaurants. I think there's like, do you have 30 now?
No, I have about 14, but I opened 30.
You've opened 30. That was where I got it.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
But you have 14. You have a lot of people coming through those kitchens, and you were trained at one time where it was very structured, and you went to French, cooking school. What what do you see in young cooks today? And you as a leader in the industry, you're really a mentor to all of these people coming through your kitchens, just like you were mentored. What are you observing? What's good about today's young cooks? What are some of the things maybe they should consider that are gaps in their learning? How do you assess the young cook of today?
Well, I think the good thing is we are in New York, and New York's very open to different culture of food, and I think that's a good start for a young chef in New York. Mm-hmm. Way more than anywhere else, I think.
So New York's a good place for a young chef.
I think it's great. Mm-hmm. I think there is a little bit of everything in a good way. Mm-hmm. So, if I was going to do my training in New York and I was 18 or 20, I'll go work as different places where I can learn different culture of food. I think that's what I missed when I was training. Mm-hmm. And now you reflect a little bit what I do, because I travel so much, and I incorporated some of what I learned through my traveling. We were talking earlier about me doing sushi in some of my places, and I started doing sushi I think 5 years ago, and I'm fascinated by it. And I think it's.
But you're doing sushi in a steakhouse.
In a steakhouse,
and
yes.
So that's you're not going to find that in France, are you?
No.
No,
not yet.
Not yet. They're going to follow
not
you.
Yet. Not yet.
So what? How much should one think outside the box and be creative and different, Jacques Maximin? And how much should you stay true to tradition and structure, technique? Where is the? Because you've got a foot in both camps. How much technique and tradition, structure does one need? And then how much creativity does one need?
I think you need to be creative, because you're also in New York, and I think the challenge is here in terms of innovation and finding and doing something new. But I think, I always tell every single person who comes to my kitchen, what really matters in the restaurant, it's the chef. Do not cook for yourself. Cook for your customer. Mm-hmm. It's a big difference here, making yourself happy and making the customer happy.
Can you give us an example of a dish where you would be cooking for yourself, and then how you would change it to cook for a customer?
There's a lot of French dish I like to cook, and I would like to have them in a restaurant, but they don't really work. A pâté de tête, a cheese head, it's a wonderful dish, but who's eating that really in New York,
Really?
Nah.
Yes.
If you want to have
tripe.
Or tripe, if you want to have a successful restaurant, it's not.
That's not what you put on the menu.
No, I don't think so. So, I think you need to adjust also your way of thinking when you are a chef of a restaurant.
All right, so the people that you hire as entry-level cooks when they come into your kitchen, do you demand that they have any skill level before they come, or do you train them in the kitchen?
It depends. We need bright people. We need people who are awake. We need people who are fast. We need people open and flexible for us to teach something. Better to have an education about food, yes, definitely. But doesn't always is the case.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And how about, in France, I think there are a lot of younger cooks that get started. They've come out of school and they get into the kitchen and they start going through a structured apprenticeship. But in the United States, we see much older people, maybe in their late 20s, career changers who say, I want to be a chef now. I want to come in the kitchen. Do you see a difference between the mentality of a young French chef versus a young American chef?
Yes, definitely there is a difference, because the apprenticeship, as you know, in France is really through the school. Mm-hmm. So you're still learning at school, and you're learning, at your job, mm-hmm. part-time. Mm-hmm. Here I think it's a little bit different, because you're right, the people are older, but I think the mentality here is great. I think people are here to learn and they understand it,
The maturity?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do you think a chef has to understand business today?
Well, definitely much more so than it was 20 years ago, or if you were cooking in the 3-Michelin star. I'm going to give you an example. It's, I don't think I ever heard the name food cost in my training in France.
Really?
No, didn't exist. So, being understand the business sense of it, or the actual, restaurant run. I mean, I think it's very important for a chef to understand what these costs are, mm-hmm. what he can do, what he cannot do. Mm-hmm. I think that's a good part of what we teach executive chef in all my restaurant. It's, it's great what you want to do, but you have to understand the food cost has to be X amount of percentage and labor cost too. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Being a chef and being, I think, a very creative person is not enough for a restaurant, unfortunately. Unfortunately, it's good to be a great chef, but it cannot be just a great chef.
Can someone learn to cook and want to be in this profession and not aspire to be a chef, but just aspire to be a cook and a sous chef? Or does everyone who goes in this profession have to aspire to be the head of a kitchen?
I think everybody is different. I think we all start because the passion of food. Mm-hmm. I don't think you start being a chef because you like business.
Yeah.
That'd be the wrong way of starting it.
Yes.
I think you have to have a passion. Mm-hmm. And after this passion, if you're good enough, and then you'll be the head chef if you want to. But at some point in your career, you want, it depends how old you are, but I believe you reach a certain age when you want to control things and do your own food, and you get at some point also tired of doing food from someone else.
That's true. So what about the whole public relations thing and having to do shows like Chef Story here? Is that part of the package too, that you have to be your own PR agent, you have to go out and promote yourself when you have your own restaurant? Well,
I mean, you have PR who represent you.
If you can afford them, yeah.
If you can afford them, yeah, of course, yeah. But, mainly you have to have one, especially in New York. I think it's a big part of it,
What about writing books? I know you have 3. Do you enjoy writing them, or do you feel that you have to put books out there so people understand you and you have your name out there?
No, I think book is great. I think it's a personal accomplishment in life to write book, certainly for me about food, but mm-hmm. I think it's a good thing to have a book sitting on your table and you can refer to, or have your cook or your staff referring to.
That's true.
Yeah, but I think right now the book industry is very different because of the internet. Even myself, sometimes I need to research about something. I go to the internet and it's right there.
That's true. I mean, we have a lot of computer terminals in our library at school.
Yeah, you see?
Because that's where you find it. So what are some of the other cuisines that intrigue you that you haven't visited yet that we might be seeing on your menus? I don't think you've lost the travel bug, the wanderlust.
No, I like I was telling you earlier, I just came back from Japan, China, Malaysia, just to see what was going on. I'm not too sure what's next in the trend, but what I know is I would love to go to India, and I think next year I'm going to take a trip to India and see what's India about in the food, because I think there is some amazing thing, and I don't think there is anybody really who accomplished the Indian food.
You mean bringing those spices into Western cuisine?
No, I think the spices are here. I think in some of the dishes we did not explore enough in India, and I think we mastered the Asian influence mm-hmm. In the Western cuisine, but I don't think Indian has
really been properly expressed here.
Yeah.
So tell me, you're one of the great French chefs that came here, and you've taught so many Americans. I mean, you've really inspired so many young chefs. Do you feel American or do you feel French, having lived here so long now?
Wow, it's a tough question. I think I really think American when it comes to the food. I mean, definitely. I've been here over 20 years, so and I don't really cook French food. It's the reality of the story.
That's right.
I have hamburger joint, I have steakhouses, I have,
That's right.
sushi bar, but
Right.
I don't really cook French. It's a funny thing.
What do you like to eat at home?
I barbecue a lot.
Well, this is reverse engineering, I think. Here's a chef that's come to America and really embraced our cooking. And I do agree. I mean, American food at its best is delicious. The product is delicious. And it's great to have you express it.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm not against French food because I love it. Still have great French food when I go to France. One day I would love to do a French bistro or really like French brasserie, like brasserie Rollman I have. So I shouldn't say I don't cook French because at Brasserie Rollman we do a lot of French food too, but not purely French, And I don't know if it's something people are very interested anymore about it. And I think we also live in New York, and New York is a little bit of a blend of everything.
So you don't think people are all that interested in French food anymore?
I mean, I don't see too many French restaurants anymore in New York.
No. More bistro than fine dining.
Yeah.
And if you look at Eric Ripert or Danielle probably does the most classic French cooking, but Eric, with his fish, it's French technique.
French technique, yeah.
The technique is there.
We all put Asian influence inside,
Yes. It's a global world.
Very much.
It sounds like you were made for a global world. You started a long time ago. Well, I can't believe it. We've run out of time.
Already.
This has been so much fun.
But thank you for having me.
Oh,
really
thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank
it's
you
fun.
for coming here. Thank you for coming to America. Thank you for all the BLTs. And I can't wait to go to Brasserie Rollman. Maybe at Christmas time with the tree, I can actually get a reservation.
Yeah, well, that's great. Yeah, you're right.
Okay, so we've been talking to Laurent Tourondel today, and I want to thank him, and I want to have a shout out to my producers, Jack Inslee and Robin Cohen. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this program on heritageradionetwork.org. You can find all of our archived programs on our website or as podcasts in the iTunes Store by searching Heritage Radio Network. You can like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at @heritage_radio. You can email us questions at any time at info@heritageradionetwork.org. Heritage Radio Network is a nonprofit organization. To donate and become a member, visit our website today. Thanks for listening.